Hello and welcome to episode 26 of The Year of Being 70. I'm Lucy Macara. I'm in Norfolk in the UK, in England, and I am with my childhood friend Lisette Schoutemaker. We both have incredibly difficult names, don't we? And Lisette is in Amsterdam. My name looks like it's pronounced Mukaraha, and actually it's Makara. And your name is impossible for an English person to even guess how it could be pronounced.
Yes. Schoutemaker. It's a very Dutch name. Maker is maker and schout is barge. So, who would the Dutch be without people who make ships and boats and barges and go everywhere across the seas?
Yes, that's a wonderful name. Well, my name, as we've discussed before, is my husband's name, and I have no idea what it means. Maybe I should check it out sometime. Anyway, we're not talking about names this week. We're going to talk about clothes and fashion and what we remember of what we wore, maybe even what our parents wore from 1954 to where we are now. So, Lisette, do you have any early memories of your parents, kind of the way they dressed or the way you were dressed as a child?
I don't really. I don't really. I think my first memories about clothing are from like age 10 or so. Um, and it's just when I look back, it's really incredible how few clothes we had. I think I had like a twin set and a sweater and two skirts and a pair of trousers, and that was about it. And
Yeah,
then we had these loose poles, or what do you call them? These high roll-ups, and then we had loose, kind of white little um kraagjes, collars,
yeah,
and that's all.
yes,
What
yes.
do you remember?
I remember that yes, similarly having far fewer clothes than any of my children had, or children have now. And a lot of mine were hand-me-downs. I had a cousin who was a few years older than me, and I also had a friend in Chelsea Square who was the same age as me, but she was bigger than me. So I used to get some of her, particularly school clothes, as I remember. But actually, one of my first memories is of my parents, well, my mother getting dressed to go out in the evening. And I really must have been about two or three then, because it feels as if my brother wasn't around. So I really was young. And my mum had this, I mean, they didn't have many clothes either. And she always wore the same thing when they went out to dinner. And she had this incredibly tight-waisted black skirt that, flared out, a real 1950s skirt that was sort of long calf length. And then she had a twin set, and it was a sort of bright peachy pink. And she would wear her pearls on top of it. And I remember her painting her nails exactly the same color as the twin set, and then a pair of black high-heeled shoes, and that was her going out outfit. And my father always wore suits, always a three-piece suit with waistcoat and a watch chain across the front often. And that was
What is a waistcoat, actually?
a waistcoat is like a sleeveless jacket that goes under the jacket of a suit. I mean, I think Americans call
Oh,
it
that makes it a three-piece suit, right?
a three-piece suit. So trousers, waistcoat or vest and jacket. Yes. But my father was a very old-fashioned man, and I think his suits were probably all made in the 1930s or 40s by his tailor, and they just stayed the same as far as I recall all through his life. So he wasn't much of a fashion icon, although probably he came in and out of fashion as things
Yeah,
changed.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. When you have your clothes long enough, they come
Yeah,
back.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think my brother still wears some of his overcoats and things like that.
Your father's overcoat. Yes, I have a cousin who wears my father's kind of green Lodenjas. You know what that is? Like this typical Austrian kind of, it's a bit too
Yes,
big for him, but he still wears it. So things were made to last, actually.
yes, yes, very much so.
And then, of course, oh, I do remember my grandmother's knitting sweaters for us.
Yes, yes, we had I think my mum did some knitting, but we also had a nanny who did some knitting for us, and they would knit us, all three of us, the same jumper in different sizes, and things like that. My mother also made clothes. She was quite a good seamstress, and she would make things like you got a pattern. I don't know if your mother sewed at all, but you'd buy these patterns and you'd cut out material, and sew them, obviously put them together, but they would come
But
in.
I think people still do that.
Yes, I'm sure they do. Yes, yes. Just because I don't doesn't mean other people
And
don't.
now that we talk about it, I remember my grandmother had a dress that she wasn't wearing anymore, my mother's mother, and she made it into a dress for me when I was about 14 or 15. And I loved that dress. It was quite tight, it had no sleeves, and it was like green with small turquoise bits in it. And I thought it was, I would want it to wear it all the time. Gosh, it's interesting how memories surface when we speak about it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes. Now, I think one of my favorite dresses was when I was about 11. And actually, it's the dress I'm wearing on the photo of us together in Amsterdam on this podcast. And and that was sort of, it was very, I thought it was very cool because it was short and it was, like that shape. And it was kind of quite not exactly psychedelic, but it was swirly and it was turquoise and orange and green, which and I wore it a lot that summer until I grew out of it. But yes,
So what was going through my mind is the dress I was wearing on that picture.
oh,
We had gone to Italy on holiday, and on a market, I saw this kind of tomato red orange, and it was like made of towely stuff, that kind of,
yes,
and it
yes,
had like a white and beige kind of hem. And I was wearing that, I believe.
you were,
So
yeah.
we both remember those dresses.
Yes, yes, it's funny how when you think back, you actually get the sort of physical feel of of clothes that you wore, and
Yeah.
you kind of almost recreate it mentally. So, what was your next kind of favorite phase, if you like? What happened when you became a teenager? What sort of clothes did you wear? I suppose we're talking late 60s, early 70s, even. Did you get into kind
Yeah,
of
I mean, that was the time when when I bought these trousers, and I was very, very proud because I was very tall and very skinny. So I remember having like 27, 36 for a pair of jeans. It was very difficult for me to buy them because they weren't stocked so much because I was so thin and so tall. I was very proud of my size.
quite right?
And then I put even more material in to flare the pants up more, or I kind of sewed them so tight that they were like tights, actually. And then there was the whole tie and dye t-shirty
Oh
thing.
yes, I remember that boiling stuff up on my on the stove in the kitchen, and yes,
Yes.
making t-shirts with those tie-dye rings on them. You put elastic bands in kind of, I don't know, I
Yeah.
can't describe it, but yes, you scrunch them all up together and then boiled them up with Dylon powdered dye in some colors.
Your memory is amazing. But I remember my mother was very in for this. She loved those things. She loved doing that with us and kind of make us look. There was something in it that, she once told me that she had this vision that my sister and I would enter a room and everybody would like go, so she wanted us to be, yeah,
Amazing.
a bit on display, actually. It's a bit, I
Yeah,
always found it a bit
how
strange. My sister says I have this memory for strange moments, strange conversations that have kind of stuck with me. This certainly is one of them. But also, my mother would be a good sport in having me dress as a hip and young and trendy person. And then shirts, of course, went up and up and up. They were very kind of mini skirts, micro skirts.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I mean, when I went to, I think before there was a big kind of division for me when I was at school up till when I was 12 in London at day school, and I was very sort of, I was a little girl up to the age of 12 and I didn't really think about fashion much. But then when I went to boarding school, the girls there were much more sort of savvy, and everything was about, we had our sort of uniforms, but we also had our civvy clothes for weekends and times off, and that got very competitive then. And then we started, the things to buy were Levi jeans. They had to be Levi's, and cords. Do you remember cord Levi jeans, corduroy ones in different colors? I
I
had.
had like one in this color. This
Oh,
color.
right, very nice. Yes, I had a
Oh,
dusty pink.
sorry, here's a call coming.
Are you okay? Do you need to
Now what to
answer it?
do? In this color, and I think I also had a jacket,
Oh, a jeans jacket. Oh, very, very cool. Yes,
but
yes.
in cord.
In cord.
And
Yes.
then my father, in a mood of wanting to be with it, bought a Lee or Levi's kind of, pants and jacket, and of course never wore it, never ever wore it. He was with us. We were in Utrecht shopping, and he just got carried away with that he could do this too. And absolutely no, there was such a division between, children, what children wore and what parents wore, which
Yeah.
which has gone. It has completely disappeared.
Yes, it really did. I mean, I kind of was kind of like physically on the edge of that, because we lived, as I said before, we lived off the King's Road in Chelsea, and it became the kind of, along with Carnaby Street, the King's Road was the other sort of cool 60s shopping boutique road of boutiques. Every single shop became a clothes boutique of some kind or another. So I would go and shop there and buy cheap mini skirts, flared trousers, tops, and everything. And my mum was still buying sort of department store or couture kind of clothes. And there was such a division there. And I've never got over it. I never I never buy expensive clothes now. I still always look for, sort of cheaper clothes, and not necessarily particularly trendy clothes anymore. But I kind of have it was like almost, you cannot buy into the grown up kind of, smart clothes look. And I think that's kind of stuck with me in some weird way. So I don't do kind of expensive clothes, except very occasionally I'll buy one expensive thing that goes over, sort of cheap stuff and lifts me into a different area. But what was your teenage was, where did you go shopping in Utrecht? You was that your nearest
I
city?
think in Utrecht there were the trendy stores there, and we had this chain. It was called Miss Aam, and they had woolen pullovers that in all colors. They were really kind of the first to have that, and it was really, if you could find a color that nobody else had, oh, that color, oh, you've got a purple, oh, and to buy them as tight and small as possible.
We called them at one stage
Yeah.
shorties, I think they were known as, very tight, short, yeah, woolen jumpers. And yes, you had those, and then you had a short skirt that went below it, or jeans or trousers, or yes, yes. And then
We were young and beautiful.
we were, yes. It's funny to look back, because you never really think of yourself at the time as being beautiful, and you don't sort of revel in being young in the way that you do when you look back at yourself and think, oh gosh, I should have enjoyed it more. I should have, yes, I should have taken more pleasure in it. But anyway, so then, do you remember longer
Yeah.
came in, and we called them midi skirts and maxi skirts, and it sort of changed. And in this country, Laura Ashley sort of Victorian-y sort of blouses and small prints and dresses, and sort of high neck
Yeah.
um, blouses came in, and big leg of mutton sleeves. And it was that was a very different look
Yes.
that then came in. You must have looked fantastic in longer skirts with your long legs and your height.
I didn't know, but I was in London and bought three Laura Ashley dresses.
Wow.
And I think I wore them to pieces, but that was when I was in my, I think, early student days. Yeah.
Yes, it was quite
Yeah.
a long kind
So
of.
I must have been about, 18, 19,
Right.
20.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yes, no, Laura Ashley was a big deal. Everybody wore, and also
It was a big
you probably
deal.
never wore these, but I wore platform shoes because I was always small and my legs are not particularly long. So I loved platform shoes and really high heels. So I had lots of lots of those. And then you would have to have your flared trousers so they came right to the ground. You didn't have them kind of ending around your ankle. They came right down to the ground and covered your shoes, so you looked a lot taller and your legs looked a lot longer. And I found that was that helped me in my in my quest for looking tall and elegant. But you probably see.
Yes, yes. I did not particularly want to be taller because I was already 180, as we say in Dutch. I don't know how much it is, but it's kind of, yeah, tall. And yeah, from Laura Ashley, then on to um, after I graduated in 1980, I went to Italy with a friend, and we came back with suitcases full of Benetton clothes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Benetton was fantastic. Yes. Yes, it was interesting because I, at that point, well, when I was 21, went to Australia. And I went with a load of Laura Ashley clothes and found that in Australia they were not wearing that kind of thing at all. They were still very much, but probably because of the weather as much as anything, because it was so much hotter there, they were still wearing short skirts, which seemed very old-fashioned to me. And it was a really, it was a really different look. And I think I probably stuck out. But yes, then when I came back, Benetton was huge. The international colours of Benetton, and again back to cord trousers and but different brighter colors and a different style of.
Beautiful knitwear,
Yeah,
beautiful knitwear.
yeah.
Really, really beautiful. Really wonderful colors and yeah, and then entering professional life. What did I wear? I wore that. I don't remember so well. What did you wear as a professional,
I
as an early professional?
I wore I think short skirts came back in again in the
Ah,
late
yeah,
80s,
yeah.
and more tailored jackets. Black tights, opaque black tights came in, and pumps, sort of court shoes. Uh, Trainers came in at that sort of point, but not for work. Do you remember the first sort of
No.
trainers? They were great for me because I had done such stupid things to my feet. I mean, I always had a tendency to have bunions, even from the age of about 12, and wore shoes that were too small to make my feet look smaller, shoes that were, kind of, well, the platform shoes, high heeled shoes, and my feet just, really, I did not do myself any favors. So my feet always hurt when I was walking, and eventually,
Hmm.
much later, I had
Hmm.
operations to get rid of my
It's
bunions.
like we're not Chinese. Our feet weren't bound, but we did it ourselves, right?
Yes, well, I
We
certainly
did
didn't.
it to ourselves.
Because you were so tall, you didn't need that kind. You didn't feel. I mean, I didn't need it, but I felt I needed, sort of height and to look the right kind of shape and size for fashion.
Well, it's interesting the kind of pride. My mother had very small feet, and my feet were larger, and my sister's feet were kind of in between my mother's and mine. So I also wanted to have small feet because in our family, small feet were good, and my feet were actually a bit too big. So I'm imagining I also wore my shoes too tight or was apt to buy, a size too small and then suffer for it.
Yes,
But
that's.
it's true that when I first had my company, which I started in 87, uh, I just was like, wow, we were all these young women with very short skirts and um, no, we were good. We were really good and we could write well, and we could do interviews well, and we could write proposals for communication strategies and whatnot. It was all not very sophisticated at the time, but also we were a brigade of well-dressed, short-skirted, intelligent women.
Yes, and
Yeah.
did you have very kind of fitted, tailored, quite flamboyant jackets that went over the black tops and the black skirts?
It wasn't only black though, but yeah, no, no. And then of course we got into the shoulder pad area
Yes, yes.
era when I could not leave the house without, fluffing up my shoulders like this. It was a very strange look.
It was. I
Do you remember when that was?
think that was that the early 90s, possibly, or maybe earlier, late 80s, early 90s, I think. And what went with it was a different hairstyle. So, you had big hair then to kind of match your big shoulders. So you were, as a woman, you were taking up more space in the world than it had been before. And I
That's a good observation.
So my hair has never been, I mean, I keep it short because it just doesn't grow long. It just kind of gets very scraggly and doesn't look nice at all. So I had sort of, I don't know, sort of bob length hair, but I tried to, do you remember scrunch drying? Whereas before you'd blow dried your hair, if you had, and kind of the object of blow drying was to make it look smooth. Now there was this thing called scrunch drying where you kind of, you blow dried it, but you scrunched it up in your fingers so it had a kind of slightly curly, frizzy look, even if you didn't have curly hair. And that was a look I kind of went for along with the shoulder
The
pads.
blow dryer The blow dryer and me have never become friends. I don't even own one these days, and I never could do it. I never had the patience, so I've always had, the hair I had. But yeah, so I never did that really.
No, no, but you've always had
But
hair that looks nice long, which I always envied. When I was a little girl, I desperately wanted long blonde hair, like some of my friends had, and my hair kind of went dark after I was about 9, and it never looked, I was never allowed to grow it long because it just looked, thin and messy. So it was a kind
oh
it was an unfulfilled ambition.
yeah, but mine went white from age 30. But I do remember now when I was in the late 80s, it was also Ralph Lauren.
Yes, the
And there
designer
was this
brand.
shop here, how the Bow sisters opened their shop, and it was all like layering. Like you would have like a t-shirt and then a blouse and then maybe a waistcoat or a vest and then a jacket. And also I had this beautiful gray long skirt. I had a black skirt, which was actually kind of curled up in the middle. And then, oh, I loved how I looked.
Sounds amazing. Yes, that sounds like a style that would have really suited you. You could carry off the layers without looking like, a snowman.
A stuffed doll.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Well,
No, I do definitely remember the layered look and having to buy the different layers that you could mix and match. And then and then there was this sort of idea of having a core wardrobe of some specific, particularly nice kind of basic garments. I mean, it might be a pair of trousers, or it might have been a top, and then you would mix and match other types of things that went on top, and particularly with the layered look. So you had some ones that you wore a lot and all the time that were particularly good quality, and then you'd kind of dress it up or dress it down with the different layers. And that
I
was
like the dress up, dress down. But I actually never buy a cheap clothing.
we're so different in so many ways, aren't we?
I like things that are well made and beautifully designed and that have materials that are of amazing quality. And I love all that.
Yes, that's so interesting. And I sort of do as well. And yet I still feel this pushback against it, which, as I say, is partly to do with the generational thing and sort of not wanting to be like my mother. Not that I have anything against them. I mean, we probably dress very similarly now, but it was just not the way I wanted to look, as a teenager. And I still feel that. And also, I think there's part of me that, really rejects the elitist kind of background that I came from, my class, if you like. And so I find it difficult to spend that money on expensive clothes, which is
Yeah, so maybe, and this is a discovery in the moment. I've also reacted to my parents because my parents, as they, moved up in the world, would never spend much on clothing. And my mother would be really, my mother would wear a t-shirt and then spill coffee, and then she'd put some buttons there. And so then she could still wear the t-shirt. And there
it.
was this store in the place where I grew up, Bilthoven, where she bought most of her clothing, where I would go, and there was nothing there for me. So maybe I have also, my parents were kind of stingy when it came to clothing, and I kind of splurge and love it. I love it. It's really, yeah,
Yeah, that's really
no,
interesting, isn't it? Yes, indeed.
yeah.
Hmm. Yes, it's sort of
Mm.
those that our two backgrounds still continue to exert influence on how we are and how we show up in the world and how we react to things, even our clothes and fashion. It's so ingrained that and
Yeah.
particularly that kind of teenage time when you're starting to create a feel of your how you are and what you look like and what you want to look like. And that's the time when maybe these things sort of get set in stone. And
And
I
do
mean,
you enjoy shopping for clothes? Do you enjoy that?
not anymore. I used to enjoy shopping, but I mainly shop online now. And I mainly buy things from places where I know, where I have been in real life. Like, I mean, Marks and Spencer is my absolute favorite go-to. To me, that's about as kind of classy as I get. Otherwise, I'll just buy cheap crap from that's on Amazon or something. But I know what fits me there, so I can go online and know what sizes to buy, and that makes me feel kind of quite comfortable, and it probably very much caters, although I don't even want to even think in these terms, but it probably caters to our age very much. The people who are in there are probably from their 50s to their 80s, who knows. So it's I'm probably, unfortunately, kind of, I always like to think of myself as being completely original and different, and I don't buy the normal clothes that everybody else does, but clearly I absolutely do. so so yes, that's I do mainly shop online, but sometimes then I buy the wrong size and then I have to go back in because it's too much of a faff to send clothes back in the post. So I go back in, and then I end up shopping and buying more clothes than I'm intended to, rather than taking things back. So yes, but do you enjoy shopping? Do you still like it? Do you go out and go to shops?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes, but I have only very, very few stores that I go to. I've bought one dress online because I had bought a dress that I really, really loved. And it was a brand that has, I think, been around for a long time, made by two sisters, and they unfortunately quit last year after all those years. And the one store that I go to in Amsterdam, had stocked a choice that wasn't mine, and so I went online, and that was my one dress that I bought online. But otherwise, I love going to this shop that is called Margriet Nannings. It is in the Prinsenstraat in Amsterdam, and she has been around for as long as I've lived in Amsterdam, which is over 40 years. And I love that she's still, she is my age or maybe a bit older, and she still does the shop, and she makes a wonderful choice of the kind of brands that I like. And she loves it when I come in because I spend. But we have this, and she had a jacket and it didn't fit me, and then she goes and sees if she can still get it, and she texts. And I love to have this relationship with her and to support her because it makes the city, if there are shopkeepers that, have original shops and yeah, have a style that is not only, the big brands and things. So I have my shops I have the one shop I go to, well, two, three shops I go to in London, and I love seeing what designers have come up with and what their thinking is and how they're approaching, this time and how things are being made. And so, yay. But
Yeah,
I don't go to, a mall or to a big street and kind of go from store to store
no,
as I did when I was, 16. But
yes,
I don't do that anymore.
no,
No.
no. Well, yeah, so when I was sort of like, I don't know, 15, 16, 17, going to places like the Kensington Market in London to buy, where it was essentially a collection, a kind of basement with a collection of lots of stalls of selling, often the same sorts of things, mainly, as I recall, velvet trousers, velvet flared trousers, t-shirts, Afghan coats, belts, and, sort of bizarre 60s jewelry. And it was smelt so strongly of weed and of patchouli, and it was just, I didn't even know what either of those things were at the time. I didn't recognize the smells, but it was like, oh yes,
But we felt counterculture and
yes,
hippie
yes,
and of
exactly.
our time, right?
Yeah, and then on the same street, on Kensington High Street, there was also the big, well, first the small and then the big Biba store, which Biba became very successful and took over an entire department store. And that was a lovely place to go because their clothes were so beautiful. But yes, I can. It's so funny. You describe your going to shops and being sort of personally served and getting recommendations on
I
different.
would not ever say personally served, but have like a business friendship with the owner and the entrepreneur
Yeah,
who I
no,
really value.
yes, but you get personal. It is personal service though, as well, isn't it? I mean, she knows you, she knows what you like, and she
Yeah.
collects clothes and makes a sort of a selection for you. And I just thinking
Yeah,
back,
not for me, but I mean, I like the way she selects, and I've been a
yeah.
customer there now for 30 years or so. And yeah,
But
it's
when you go in, she shows you clothes. This is what I thought you were saying. She
oh,
shows
no, no, no,
you.
no. I pick my clothes and then she shows me things and she says, "Oh, but I have that in a bag." So, but she is it's not, I would never ever say serve, but maybe that has in the egalitarian Dutch society, that has an immediate kind of upstairs, downstairs ring for me. But it's like she's the entrepreneur and I'm a customer, and we both enjoy the process of finding what in the season is, something for me and that I would take great pleasure in wearing.
Yes, no, no, I get that. But well, I suppose I'm used to hearing in the entrepreneur world here, we talk a lot about serving our clients. And it's not all about making money, but about serving and giving good service. So I'm meaning it in that sense, really, not in a sort of upstairs, downstairsy way. Although
Yeah, no, but for me, it's more like having fun together.
yes, no, I can see that. But
Yeah, because also sometimes, she has bought things, and then when I wear it, and then sometimes another person, in the stall next door wears it, and it looks very different. And she goes, "Oh, I hadn't thought you could combine it like that." So we're having a creative time together. That's more
yeah,
how it feels.
yes, that's lovely. But yes, I mean, I'm sure you don't do this, but I'm a sucker for sales. I mean, if I see something, advertised online, if I'm going looking for clothes and I say, "Oh, sale 50% off," I would immediately go there and look for the cheapest thing I can find and see if I can get. And that's so totally different to you, isn't it?
I like to go early in the season so the selection is still full. And yeah. Also, there's another question. So this is my memory for incongruent conversations, like or things that because my father in 2008, when he was he had a brain tumor. So he was basically, after the operation, he had a stroke. So then he was basically in bed in on the ground, yeah, in the living room. And people came to visit. And one of my mother's friends was wearing this amazing skirt, like a beautiful skirt. And then my father said, at my age, you don't get to see so many women's legs anymore because all the women are wearing trousers. And my mother would wear, these trousers that were kind of practical and handy and didn't need much. But I love wearing skirts. Do you wear skirts?
No, no, never.
Never. When did you stop wearing skirts?
I probably about 10 years ago, I think. It wasn't a conscious decision. I think actually a lot of my fashion choices up till kind of quite recently have been based on the fact that I put on weight and I didn't feel that I could buy the same. It was kind of, yeah, I felt like I'd sort of lost my sense of style in a way. I couldn't wear the things that I would like to wear because I wasn't the right shape anymore to wear them. So I think
This
that
is a post-menopause thing, right?
menopause and then sort of more recently than that, where I mean, I put on weight post menopause and I stayed the same for a long time. And then probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to put on more weight. And then I kind of felt that I wasn't able to wear either particularly flamboyant clothes, which I did quite like before, or I've always liked a kind of tailored look. And that just didn't work for me. So I was wearing loose clothes and trousers because I
But
thought
now you've got your figure back, Lucy.
I don't know if I'll go back to wearing skirts. I don't.
I love skirts. I love skirts.
Yes, but you're tall and slim, and you have.
I'm not slim anymore. Not slim. I think I'm slim, but I look only at the front and then it looks good. And then I turn around and then here there's all these bits that kind of I never imagined were going to be there, but they're there.
Yes, well, not very much, frankly. You probably see them more than anybody else does. To me, you are still tall and slim, and because you're not as slim as you were when you were young, it doesn't mean you're not
I
still.
was so thin. I'm not thin anymore. I'm kind of sturdy now. But I love skirts. I love the feel of skirts. I love the look of skirts. Yay.
That's so interesting because I really dislike tights as well. I don't like wearing tights, and you have to wear tights mostly unless it's very hot with skirts, and that doesn't. The other reason I don't wear skirts actually is because I can't wear high heels anymore. And I mean, I wear trainers of some description
I
all the
wear
time.
trainers with my skirts.
And I guess you can now because that's kind of come in more. But because I'm shorter, I just don't think, I kind of want to feel that if I'm wearing a skirt, I feel I need to be a bit taller somehow to make the look work for me. And so I think that plays into it too, though I haven't surfaced that idea before. I mean, I would love to be able to wear high heels, beautiful shoes again, but I would simply fall over and they make my feet hurt so much it's not even worth.
I had a herniated disc 30 years ago and I never wear high-heeled shoes. So it's also very easy. I wear trainers with skirts and I love it that is now a thing to do. It looks
Yes, no, it's perfectly
yeah.
acceptable now, perfectly nice, cool look to have. Yes, yes.
Yay. Wow, I had another very interesting question, but now it's completely gone. Old age,
Don't tell me it was
70.
about what colours I wear and why I always.
Oh, colors, because I used to wear black so much all the time. And then 10 years ago or so, I've started this campaign, Color in the Closet. Well, you can't really tell now, but I'm wearing a very colorful, quite a colorful skirt.
Oh, that's your skirt.
Um,
Oh, yes, yes.
and so the look of my closet has changed, and there are still parts where I have to go in and feel because it's all kind of blacky.
Yes, yes, I see what you mean. Yes. Well, I've kind of reduced my colours over the years and well, more recently, and as you know, I kind of wear black and cream and or black and cream or black and white and with sometimes with some coloured accessories like a scarf or occasionally a jacket and things. Oh, I bought some absolutely beautiful jackets from a place called Shibumi, and they make beautiful sort of embroidered and silk and cashmere jackets. They're really lovely and they're very expensive from my perspective. You would probably think they were quite, kind of cheap, but you get them made and they take 6 weeks to come. And over the last few years, I've probably bought about 5 or 6 of these for various kind of events I've needed to go to. And I've really loved them. And in general, I've just worn them over black tops and black trousers. But because I've lost so much weight recently, none of them fit anymore. My
Oh, could you have
investment,
them remade? Could somebody kind of take them in and
I
kind of
don't know.
redo
One
them?
of them still fits me just about, but
Hmm.
then, who knows? I might put all the weight back on again and then they'll be still there waiting for me.
Well,
I hope
we'll
not.
see how
But,
that works with your weight thing.
but yes, but yeah, interesting. But in general, I wear black and white because it just reduces the choices I have to make in the day. And
But I love the choice every morning. Some an outfit will come into my mind and I go like, oh yeah, that's kind of good for who I'm seeing today and what's happening today and where I need to go. And I have a cousin who has never cooked the same meal twice. And
wow.
so I think of her when I'm in my closet. I go like, do I go for like the trusted combination or will I never cook the same meal twice? And I find it a moment of creativity to put my outfit of the day together. And
Yeah,
of course, I have my kind of trusted friends and combinations that work. Yeah.
yes, amazing. Yes, how interesting. But I also
Yes.
kind of feel that I look best in black. Of all the colours that I could choose, black is actually the best for me. Now my hair is this colour and I'm this age and blah blah. So why even think about wearing another colour when I always want to look my best and I
Because
look
it
best
is
in black?
creative. Try pink. And those colorful jackets that you had made. I saw someone LinkedIn with when you were, speaking about your
Yes,
famous
I've
last
never had
book.
a pink one. Yeah.
Anyway, very different again.
Yes,
And still we dress more or less the same, as you say. But
me
it's
looking
it's lovely to talk about clothing and what it means to us.
yes, yes. Okay. Well, there we go. Our differences and our similarities and our memories.
Yes. See you
Well,
next week.
see you next week.